All right. Yeah, you just got to talk into it, man.
Yeah, but what are we going to do while we're talking?
We're just going to talk. It's going to be fun.
About how we're going to destroy the world.
No, we're not going to talk about how we're going to destroy the world. We've never talked about how we're going to destroy the world, man.
Never 99, the podcast that takes an untraditional view on health in the world and breaks it down in a way that makes sense. 99% is never enough. Always 100. With your hosts, Dr. O and Olive.
You don't know. What's up, everybody? It's Dr. Odom, and thanks for hanging out with me on today's episode of Never 99. And today I want to get into something that we around the office we call the victim mindset. And it's very, very, very like devastating for like your psychological health, and then it spills over into all the different aspects and different like ripples into your life. And what I mean is, a lot of times like we think that we don't have control over something when we have a significant amount of control over that exact thing that we think we don't have control over, where we think the outside circumstances have 100% or almost 100% influence on the thing that we want to achieve. Like it's out of our control. Like we're being taken advantage of by life. We're being taken advantage of by the world even. You know what I mean? So it's that victim mindset where everything is happening to us as opposed to us happening to the world. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie The Departed. It's awesome. It's got, it's got a bunch of famous people in it. It's about some mobsters back in the day in Boston. It's got Leonardo DiCaprio. It's got Jack Nicholson. It's got Matt Damon, I think. Don't quote me on that one. I haven't seen it in a while, but it's a fantastic movie. And a lot of people know the quote, like, I'm a product of my environment. Like I hear that quote and I understand that quote, but I hate it at the same time. Like there's a lot of truth to that quote. But when I hear that truth, my body cringes up. Like I freaking hate that quote. So in that movie, one of the gangsters says, I don't want to be a product of my environment. I want my environment to be a product of me. And that's one of my all-time favorite quotes. It is just kind of weird that it comes from a gangster or a mobster movie, but I'm not gonna lie, man, The Godfather Part 1, Part 2 kind of shaped my life. When I was a little kid, Scarface, I love watching Scarface. I love The Departed. I love that quote. One more time, I don't want to be a product of my environment. I want my environment to be a product of me. And that's kind of the opposite of the victim mindset. That's like going on the offensive as opposed to having the world like come at you. And that's really, really, really important because there's a lot of things that if you flip that, if you flip that mindset from like the things that have happened to me are causing this, which there is some truth to that, but if you plant that seed deep, deep, deep down within your soul and your psychology, like it will blossom into some crap that you do not want in your life. As opposed to the other seed, which is I want my environment or I want my life or I want my health to be a product of me. Now, we don't have full control over anything. There's chaos, craziness, and uncertainty in just about every aspect of life, but you can't focus on the things that you can't control because you can't control them. So those are happening. But what can you control? What are you in charge of? That's a different seed. If you place that deep within your psychology, your psyche, like it's a whole different ball game. The fruits that you'll reap from those trees are way tastier than the fruits you'll reap from the victim tree. Nobody wants to be on that tree. You know, for me, I apply that to like just about every aspect of life that I can, especially when I feel myself feeling like a victim. I'll just kind of like snap myself out of it, or I'll go watch The Departed. At least, well, not really. I'll go watch the YouTube clip of Jack Nicholson saying that gangster quote, which I like a lot, and it kind of like snaps me back into place. But yeah, it's really important because, like, especially when it comes to health, which is what I deal with a lot, like on a daily basis. You know, when people come in every day, and I won't say everybody, but just about every new person or new patient that I meet or that I run into, they think they have almost zero control over their overarching health and the things that are coming to them, and it's freaking crazy. They come in and they think that somebody else's oh man, what's it called? Biography. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. They think that someone else's biography, someone else's choices are going to dictate what happens to them, which is crazy. And what I mean by that is like someone else's bad choices don't have a pure influence on you. And what I mean by that, a lot of people come in and be like, oh, well, this runs in my family. I have high blood pressure. I'm overweight. For instance, my dad has high blood pressure. He's overweight. My grandfather, same thing, yada, 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 right? So it's like this whole bullshit train of like other people have this thing from poor choices and lifestyle. So that means I have to have it. It runs in our family. Now, influences run in your family, learned behaviors run in your family. Like, you know, the things that you see, the things that you think, the decision trees that you make. Like when you see a choice, like, should I eat donuts every day for breakfast? Like that's a decision, right? Like that's not, and that could be influenced, right? That can be influenced by like what you saw and modeled from your parents as a kid, but that's not determined. Like, it's not like God came down and wrote that in your storybook. Like you're going to have to do that. Like you have free will. You can make your own choices when it comes to that. And a lot of people don't like hearing that. So it's kind of tough. But what I mean, like someone else's bad decisions, someone else's lifestyle, someone else's biography don't dictate your future. You have a fresh canvas to a point. Like I said, I know there's some things that we can't control and we don't worry about those. Like those are things that are happening. But what about the things that you can control? Like when it comes to like high blood pressure, diabetes, particularly type 2 diabetes, which is the kind, type 1 diabetes is where like your pancreas doesn't make enough insulin or doesn't make insulin at all or the proper levels and you can't get sugar out of your blood. That's a whole different scenario as opposed to type 2 diabetes, which is where you eat yourself into sickness, right? Like that's different. Like your body started off fantastic and then you ate your way to sickness, right? And I'm not like ragging on anybody or anything, but like it's one of those things that happens, right? Those are just poor choices. And until you own up to those poor choices, you're always going to be a victim. You're always going to think that you don't have control or you don't have power to change the things that you want to have in your life. Like someone else's bad choices, someone else's diabetes, someone else's obesity, someone else's laziness, somebody else's like not looking into better nutritional things or different ways to, you know, I'm just using nutrition for an example because it's a pretty easy one. And it's what I read the other day, like 45% of Americans are obese right now. Not overweight. That's a whole different category. Obese is above overweight. So I think 45% of us right now in our country are overweight. And that's a choice. Like I know that, you know, the different people have different metabolisms and things like that. So if you're going to hit me with like, I'm big boned, that's not true. I take x-rays all day long. Our bones are the same, right? Now we do metabolize food different, which is kind of, you know, which is unique that we're all humans, but that way that we metabolize food is totally different on the inside, which is kind of trippy. So it takes some effort. It takes some trial and effort. It takes some heartaches. It takes some struggles. I'm not saying things are easy, but it is within your own wheelhouse of choices. But like, you know, coming back to the point, if you look at these things that are happening to you, like you're a victim, like you don't have any control over it, then why would you try to fix it? Like, why would you try to better your life? When it comes to anything, it doesn't have to be health or being overweight or diabetes and stuff like that. Those are just two I focus on because everyone knows no one made you eat the Big Mac. Like what was it, the first episode, the second episode? There's like so many chemicals and so much crap and so much shit stuff into like into like a Big Mac is barely even food when you eat it. So like no one's making you eat this chemical sandwich every day or every other day or, you know, whenever you're on your way home from school or from work or you know, all that type of stuff because it's convenient. Like no one makes you do that. Like that's not genetic. That's a personal choice, you know, and that comes down to personal responsibility, which is hard. You know what I mean? And I can vouch for that because let's see, it's been, I don't know, about 7 years now, about 6 or 7 years ago, I lost 100 pounds, right? So I ate my way into an obese person. There was nothing like made me do all the poor choices and the easy choices and the laziness that I did. And it wasn't like massive. It wasn't like I'm going to eat McDonald's every day and never move. It didn't happen like that. It was like little tiny invisible choices that happened over and over and over and over again. And that's a good point. I don't know if I don't know if you ever thought about this. Invisible choices are what lead to a storybook ending and a storybook life, as opposed to bad or negative invisible choices that you make that lead to a disaster. They lead to sickness, early death. They lead to devastation as we go through there. And invisible choices are hard. What I mean by that is, like, sometimes we make all these simple choices all the time, and they don't have an immediate impact on us right now. And the way that we're wired biologically is to look for instant gratification, to do the things that instantly give us gratification. I don't remember why, but that is a thing. We are hardwired for that. So, like, what I'm talking about, like, you know, we'll use the Big Mac or the Big Mac example. Like, if I ate 2 Big Macs for dinner tonight on the way home, tomorrow I'll wake up and I'll, besides feeling kind of sluggish, because I don't eat that very often. Look at it, sluggish. Is that a word? Feeling kind of weird on the inside and maybe being a little bit puffy, but you know, if I eat 2 Big Macs and a French fry and drink a Diet Coke or whatever, the next day when I wake up, nothing's different. It's exactly the same as it was yesterday. It seems like everything's fine. So it's like, heck yeah, I can do that again, right? But you make that invisible choice every day for 20 to 30 years, and man, then you have a whole shit ton of problems that you have to handle. There's like a whole litany of sicknesses and, like, you know, all kinds of bad things will happen. For example, you know what I mean? Like, smoking a cigarette is another good invisible choice. If you smoke 1 cigarette, especially for someone who smokes, right? Like, the very first time you smoke a cigarette, I've never smoked a cigarette. So, like, I don't know what it feels like, but, you know, I'm assuming the first time you smoke a cigarette, like, the next day, your lungs feel like there's a whole bunch of goo or in something inside of them. But for people that are smokers or have been smoking for a little bit of time, for a couple of weeks at least, every time you smoke a cigarette, there's no difference the next day. So it's like nothing negative happened. It was an invisible choice. It was like, it wasn't even a thing. But, you know, as you know, I don't know if you guys know this, like, I read this somewhere that smoking cigarettes or like cigarette smoke increases your chances to get every known disease that humans can get by a lot or by a little. You know, there's depending on the different diseases, but it increases them all. So it's like poison inside of your body. And then at the end, when you're like 50, 60 or 70 or whatever, you have all this sickness and disease, and then not to mention that you have to go through the whole rigmarole, of like dealing with it. But as the time goes on, like, you get sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker. You know, each 5-year chunk goes through, you're a little less healthier than you were before. And then that's how people wind down. That's how people's brightness or their health, that's how it stops shining. You know, like, our life shouldn't be a fader switch or a dimmer switch, like on a what you call it, like a dimmer switch, like a little twisty thing that you twist and then the lights go down like a dimmer switch. That's not how our life is supposed to go. We're not supposed to start off bright and then, like, just slowly fade away and just, you know, shrivel up and be nothing at the end. The goal of life is to be like a candle, is to burn brightly instantly and burn that same brightness until you just flicker a little bit at the end until you transition to the other side. That's how I look at life. You're not supposed to, like, slowly fade into crap and live this shitty life, right? You're supposed to, like, burn bright, but it takes effort. It takes a lot of things. And again, like, I know there's some things that we all have different start spots when it comes to health and life, but there is a, you know, if you just take those things that have happened to you, your start spot, and you bury it deep down inside of you and become a victim, then there's no chance of you able to break out of the prison that you put yourself into. And that health prison sucks, man. Like, I see people at the last third of life or the last fifth of life, and they're alive, kinda, you know what I mean? It takes them, like, they're on so many different medications. They're so sick. They can't move. They can't enjoy life. Their vigor's gone. Their vitality. It's like, it's not the way to go. And I can't say that you can, you know, live a life without sickness and disease and suffering, because life is full of suffering, right? That's the way life is. But you can make your life the very best that it can be. And that's really, really, really important. Your life. You can make your life the best that it can be. And one of the ways to get out of the victim prison is to stop comparing your life and your circumstances to somebody else's life and someone else's circumstances. Like I said, we're different on the inside. So that's true. So we're different on the inside. We have different role models. We're surrounded by different things. We're taught different stuff, right? There's a whole reason why you shouldn't compare. But if you get into the comparison trap, you're going to go into the woe is me. I'm a victim. This happens to me. There's nothing I can do about it. And it's crazy when I see it. When I meet people and or what I do for a living, when I meet people, one of the very first things I have to do is break that pattern. They'll come in and be like, hey, dog, you don't understand. This is my life. My dad's life was this way. My life's this way. I just don't have any choice in the matter. That's basically, they don't necessarily say it that way, but they're just saying there's nothing. I hear this all the time. There's nothing I can do about it. And a lot of times I'm just like, what do you mean there's nothing you can do about it? You're not, there's always something you could do to make it better. You can't make everything go away, but you can make everything a little bit better. And if you're always putting more positives inside of your life and trying to take away the negatives that we have, I just like I want to dump, positives all over my body, or all in my body, or all in my mind, all at the same time, and take massive action on whatever I want to change, so that way it can move. And for some people, they'll do the same positives or same massive action, and then they'll get a massive result quickly. And then another person maybe do the same things, and they won't, they'll do the massive work and action. They won't necessarily get the same jump or massive increase in the result, but they'll get better. Maybe it's at a lower level, but they're still better. And that, over time, with consistency and persistence of dumping just like, boom, a positive blast inside of your body and trying to rip the negatives away. And a lot of times it's not the stuff inside. I'm not saying rip things out of you. It's in between here, the things you need to dump inside of here and rip outside of here. If you're not watching the YouTube video, I was like pointing at my mind. So the thing between your ears, you got to like the way that you think, you have to like rip all the bad shit out of your mind and then dump all the good stuff that you can inside of there. And a lot of times you don't even know what good stuff you need. And that's where it gets crazy. So then that's when you have to put in some work. You have to start like finding some mentors or find a time machine. One of my favorite movies, I think we talked about this every podcast episode, is Back to the Future. Because I think Back to the Future Part 1 and Part 2 is one movie, and it's the greatest movie ever made. But you need a time machine. Like, I really, really believe in time machines. So if you see somebody who's doing the thing that you want to do, go talk to them and learn from them. That way you can get the same thing that they got quicker, because you don't have to figure it out on your own. So, like I said, a lot of times when you're trying to put in the things and the positives in your mind so you can figure out what to do, the hard part is you don't know what to do. So go find someone who does know what to do. Or you just go to a bookstore or Google. You can Google all kinds of crap and you can figure out there's lots of ways to do lots of things that are positive, and which one's best, I don't know. Do them all. Tinker with yourself. I love tinkering with things. So that's one thing about me. If you get to know me, I love tinkering with stuff. I'm always like tinkering with this, trying to figure this stuff out. And I love tinkering with my body or hacking with it. And I'll do one thing and be like, holy smokes, man. Like I feel when I use these supplements, or when I exercise this way or think this way or sleep this way or use this thing or use that thing or whatever, like this part of my life is better. So I'm going to keep doing that. Or if I, on the other end of the spectrum, if I do all this stuff and I'm like, oh man, this is starting to suck or whatever, I'm starting to feel worse, I take it out and I just find something else to do. Like, it's a never ending cycle of like doing stuff over and over and over again so you can find the right thing to do. So important. Let me get back on track. Dr. Odom tangent. I don't have Olive here today to get me back on track when it comes to one of my tangents. Like, so having the victim mindset, having those seeds like deep inside of your body will lead you to a disaster ending at the end. So you have to really, really, really work on changing the ways you think about things. Even things that are out of my control, and I know there's things that are out of my control, I try to act like that I am in control and try to make it better, like whatever situation or whatever thing's happening around me. And every time that I put like focused laser beam effort into making anything better with like all the intensity and tinkering ability that I have, it always ends up a little bit more positive. Or a lot more positive. And either way, it doesn't matter. Like I said, if you do those things over and over and over again over time, it leads to the storybook ending. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, that's the invisible choices I was talking about. So life and what happens to you is it's not solely invisible choices or choices in general, but if you think about it, it's a lot of the time it's like these choices that like you make into the next day, negative or positive, like you don't see a change. The change that happens on the micro level is individual. Not individual. I guess it is individual. I meant invisible. But when you zoom out, or like when you fast forward like 15 years, if you did all that stuff, the choice will show itself. It will not be invisible. Eventually you will see the fruit that you have been fertilizing, and you want to make sure you have a yummy fruit. Yum fruit. So that's super important. And then like a positive, like a lot of times I use negative, like nutrition as far as a negative, invisible choice, but like a positive invisible choice would be exercise. Like me and my son, Andre, we worked out this morning. We do every morning. So we always exercise for about 30 minutes, you know, like with the intent of moving our bodies to making them more healthy. So not just doing activities. So like, that's really important. I think was one of the things I'm trying to teach him is that because like he's 6, man. So like, they're like the best car salesmen or salesmen in the world. So like, if we do something like if we go outside and like, I can't think of anything, mow the grass, or even if we go swimming, like something fun, like something active, he'll say, "Oh, Dad, we did our exercise." And I'm like, no. That was just active, fun stuff. We did active things. Exercise is when you move your body for the sole purpose of making it healthier on the inside. There's a big distinction between that. So that's one of those things that we do every day. That's a positive, invisible choice. Like we worked out this morning, and then I will look zero different tomorrow, and neither will he. He'll look the same. I'll look the same. My heart will feel the same. My lungs will feel the same. There won't be anything different. But you know the story. You know, if you did that for 45 years of your life, the choice will show itself. And through there, I'm not saying you're never going to suffer. Like I said, life is. I'm not nihilistic or anything, but life is full of suffering. Like there's chaos all around us at all times. So you have to like put this positive force field around you so that way you can maneuver the world. And then instead of the world pushing its will on you, you can push your will on the world and make it different. And then that will make you different because like your uniqueness is fun. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. So like, I believe that everyone has a soul purpose. Both when you think of it, I don't know how you thought of it, like SOUL, soul, or SOLE, singular. I believe them both to be true. I believe we have this specialness inside of us. Like we all have this greatness inside of us as this longing to get out, this uniqueness that we have. And I think it's I can't think of a word right now. It's I don't want to say sin. It's sinful, or it's, you're depriving the world of something fantastic. You're taking something away from your fellow brothers and sisters if you don't push your uniqueness out into the environment, into the world, and do the thing that you do best. I think that we're all here. We have that something special inside of us. It's the thing that drives you. It's the thing that you're passionate about. It's the thing that you would do for free. It's the thing that you talk about all the time. It's the thing that your friends are tired of you talking to them about, but they'll listen to you because they love you and they see how passionate and hyped up you are about it. That's your sole purpose. So like, I feel like a lot of us live the cubicle life. Like we're so comfortable in mediocrity or so comfortable in comfort that we won't chase our dream or chase our sole purpose. And then, I've never worked in a cubicle, but I had, the stigma or stereotype. And then just talking to, a lot of people I know is like, they hate work, like working for the weekend. No, I'm for the weekend. Don't get me wrong. The weekend's awesome, but you want to work for the work. You want to work for the passion. You want to work for the thing that you want to give the world. You want to love it. I mean, I don't know the math, but like 5/7, I don't even know if that's a real fraction. So if you work 5 days a week and you're off 2, right? 5/7 of your life is going to be doing something that you love or doing something that you hate or something that's like sucking your soul out with only 2 days of doing, 2/7. Again, I don't know math. Like, I don't know if that's a real fraction with like only 2/7 of your life doing something that you like and enjoyable. And if I were to like propose that to you, like if there was no work system and days of the week and all this stuff, if we were just like inventing the world together, and I was like, okay, there's going to be 7 days in a week. And then 5 of those 7 days, you're going to do a bunch of shit that you hate. And you're going to hate waking up. You're going to hate it while you're there. You're only going to look forward to going home. And then when you get home, you're going to feel bad and then talk to your significant other about how bad the people are and the thing that you do is. But then there's like 2 days a week, maybe 1.5 days a week, something like that, where you'll be happy. Let's do that. Who would do that? Like, that's freaking crazy, right? So like I said, you should always be working on something like to help express your sole purpose, even whether it's a side hustle that you're going to try to make into your main thing, or if it's your educational route, or if it's a job that you chose, anything like that, like whatever it is, like you want to make sure that you're expressing the uniqueness, the greatness that you have inside of you, because like you are giving that, like it's divine. It's the thing that's yours, that it's your duty to get it out to the world. Like I can't write your book. No one else can write your book. Only you can do that. No one can, no one can raise your children the way that you're going to raise your children. Like, I can't do that. Only you can do that. And it was given to you, and you need to press upon the environment, so that way you can leave the world better than it was, with a piece of you in it that can last forever. Like, that's the ultimate goal. That's my ultimate goal right there. Anyways, is to make the world better when I'm gone, and to leave and it's better because there's a lasting piece of me somewhere in it. So that's always been kind of my goal when it comes to like work and stuff like that. So it's super, super important. It's super, super important. Like, not to play the victim. Like, you want to make sure that you can do these things, but it's hard. You have to, like I said, you have to rip that shit out of your brain. And then there's 3 questions that when it comes to anything that I want to do, if I feel like it's impossible, or like I don't have like a much influence or say so in what's going on, there's 3 questions that I'll always kind of wrap my head around. And I like to help people kind of work through these. So I'll kind of introduce them to you. And they kind of go in order. They don't have to go in order. So when you want to do something, you have to know that it's possible. If you don't need to know how to do it. You don't need to know step by step, this is how I'm going to make this happen. You just have to go, no, it's possible. Other people can do it. I can do it. You just have to know it's possible. That you don't have. Les Brown is one of my favorite speakers in the world. And one of my favorite things that he always talks about is how is none of your business. Like, how are you going to do it? Don't worry about it right now, especially in the beginning when you're trying to figure something out, or when you're trying to find when you're trying to like cultivate and season your soul purpose and your uniqueness. When you're trying to like get that thing that tastes fantastic, you don't need to worry about how. You just have to really start like believing in yourself that you can do it. Or you don't even need to know. You just need to know that someone else can do it. It's possible. Am I going to be able to actually achieve the goal? I don't know, but it's possible. If it's possible, I can try. That kind of like rips the victim mindset of like, oh, I have nothing to do with it. It kind of rips that out. So if you know it's possible, you can do it. You just have to figure it out. But in the beginning, you don't need to worry about how. How is none of your business in the beginning. So one of the first main questions you have to work yourself through is it possible? And then once you know it's possible, then you know you can do it. It's just, do you want to put in the work? Do you want to figure it out? Or do you want to try? Do you want to fail? Do you want to do all these things, right? Sometimes they're hard. Like, failing sucks. Like, I'm not a fan of it, but a lot of the best lessons I hate when people say this. The best lessons I've learned in life are from failing. That's true and not true. You know what I mean? If you keep pushing through, it's true. But if you fail and quit, then that's not necessarily the best lesson you can learn. It's hard, man. It sucks to fail, but like, it's just part of it. So you have to know it's possible. And then you have to know that you're capable of doing it. Like, that's something that's really, really, really important. Like, being healthy, you have to know that your body is designed to be healthy. It's not designed to be sick and suffer. You're not a machine. You're not a robot. You can't just take parts of it out and put a new part in and expect it to be exactly the same. There's something magical inside of this. It's not really magic. It's science. It's spirits. It's God. It's something fantastic. Like, you got stardust inside of you, literally. You should think about that. There's the things that make us come from space, which is crazy, right? So there's stardust inside of you. There's so much greatness inside that you have to know that, like, to be healthy, like, hey, it's possible. And my body's designed, and like, we're capable to be healthy. That's something that I can do, right? Or like, I don't know, you want to open up a business. Let's just say then other people do it. I could do it. Cool. So it's not like it's never been done before, or like it's like some sort of like cosmic mystery. Like, yeah, you want to open a business. It's a thing that you can do, right? People do that. Are you capable of doing it? Do you think you are? I mean, like, do you have the tools at your disposal to do it? You might not have them right in front of you, but you could find them. You could figure it out, right? Like, there are things you could do. Our system is set up, for example, like our bodies are set up to be healthy. The world that we live in right now is set up where you can open up a business if you can figure it out, right? And then you just have to, and this is the first 2 are pretty easy if you just think about them, but you have to. Those are the good ones. Those are the first steps that rip the victim mindset bullshit out of your head. So you have to get that out. And then the third question that you have to kind of work through, are like, it's the one that kind of makes people laugh when I tell it to them, or kind of gets them to freak out a little bit when we dig a little bit into it, is, are you worthy to live that type of life? Are you suitable for that? And that one, a lot of the times, like, especially if there's a group of people, or like we're just sitting around bullshit talking, I'm like, oh yeah, no one wants to, everyone kind of like laughs at that one. But whenever I sit down with someone and we talk about that, like in a one-on-one scenario, that's the one that makes people get teary-eyed, where they really don't think that they're worthy. Like, they're not deserving of that. They have if we're talking about living like open up a business or being financially free or wealthy or something like that, they have the poor man mindset, where they actually don't think that they're supposed to get those things. Those things aren't good. I can't have that. Only this type of person can have that, right? Because they have some sort of weird psychology that they've probably learned as a kid, you know, or they have this like self-esteem thing going on. And it's really hard to get through that one. I've had, like, for me, like possible and capable, I can usually knock those out. Yeah. Is it possible? Yeah, of course it's possible. If it's possible, I could try, I can do it. That doesn't mean I will, but I can. Like, it's not impossible. The counterpoint to that is, like, if you want to get on a roof and jump off and learn to fly and flap your, like, by flapping your arms like this, like, if you're not watching a YouTube video, I'm trying to fly. Don't do it. Like, it's not possible. Like, that's something that's a bad pursuit. You won't be able to get that one. But, like, you know, other things, you know, that don't fit in, like jumping off the roof and trying to fly with your arms, like most things or some things, most people's dreams are possible, like, because, you know, it's happening for other people. And then capable is another easy one that's usually, you know, easy to get through. And I've had to work through those, but that last one, man, that last one's tough. Are you worthy? Are you worthy of achieving these things and all of the beauty that will come from it? You know, a lot of times that right there will hold you back from even trying to get the thing. It'll make you make silly choices and like self-sabotage and do a bunch of weird crap, right? Or not even start. For most people, when they don't think they can, but they're not even worthy of these things. Then when it comes to people's health, when it comes to people's health, that's, you know, that's something that I deal with on a daily basis. Like, when I ask them that question, that makes people break down, and like they know it's possible to be healthy. They see other people living to 100 or like running a marathon when they're 60 or going cruise shipping. You know, I always tell people when you get older, you want to be like, I don't like going on a cruise. Fun fact, I've only been on one cruise and I hated it. It was probably one of the worst times in my life. But most people, some people like, for me, I think a cruise is like a cruise is like a floating golden corral, man. All it was just like people chilling and eating buffets, man. Like, when's the next buffet? And maybe it was just a cruise that I went on, but I feel like I was on a floating golden corral. It wasn't for me. But I forgot where I was going with that. Floating golden corrals, man. So that wasn't the point of this, to talk about the cruise ships. Oh yeah. What kind of person do you want to be when you're 60 or 70? The person that's going on cruises, if you like them, if you don't look at them, if a floating golden corral is what you want to do, you know what I'm saying? If you want to enjoy your life, or it's the same 60-year-olds can't go to the mailbox. They can't walk to the mailbox or whatever because some things are happening, right? So those two end choices, let's say those are the end choices, which they're not. Those are just a milestone or a stopping spot on the way of our life. But the same person can start as a baby and equal up in either one of those two scenarios. But there's like 5 billion. I don't know if that's a real number. I mean, it's a real number. Like, I don't know if that's how many choices it is, but there's, for example, like in an infinite amount of invisible choices you have to make from the time that you're born or until the time that you can make choices, all the way up through adulthood and life that equals those two destinations. And then all the other milestones and destinations on the route there, right? And that's where it gets kind of tricky. So you have to do it's kind of like, there's a quote, I can't remember what it was. It's like, do you do the right thing when no one's watching? Right? A lot of people, like, if someone's watching, or like micromanaging them or staring at them, or if they're being observed, or if they're have a supervisor or something like that, they'll do the things that they're supposed to do. But when that scenario is gone, do they still do the right thing when no one's watching? Right? And that's our life. Are we doing, now no one's perfect, I get that, but are we doing the right things when no one's watching? Someone's watching, life is watching, the world is watching, right? Like I said, the world is waiting to impose its will on you. So you have to make these invisible choices over time to impose your will on the world. And that's really, 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 really important to remember as you go through there, right? Because that is life. We only got one of them. How do you want to spend it? You have to take some discipline. It takes some self-discipline. It takes some personal responsibility. Those are hard, man. Like, we talked about that on the last podcast when me and Oliver were talking about, drug addiction, and we were kind of going into like what happened with her brother and her family. But like, it's really hard. Like, doing the hard things is hard. That's why they're called the hard things, right? That's what she said. If somebody was here, that's a perfect Michael Scott, that's what she said joke. Anyways, but it is hard, right? It is tricky. It's super, super, super tricky to do those things when no one's watching. But that's what leads you down the path that you want to go on, is the invisible choices. And if I could leave you with anything, it is possible to do almost anything that you want to do. You are capable of it because you're unique, you're special, you're given a gift. You're made of freaking stardust, which is crazy when you think about it, right? So it's possible, you're capable of doing it. I believe that we're all worthy of achieving these things, of expressing our soul purpose. I believe these three things with all of my essence, like that's true. So I believe that we're capable of so much, but to be capable of so much is hard. Like it gets heavy, man. And we're just wired for we're wired for immediate gratification. We're wired to do one thing and wait 15 minutes and see the result. And if we don't see it, a lot of times it's hard to put it in the work. So it takes personal responsibility. It takes self-discipline. And a lot of times it takes leadership or modeling or role modeling or mentorship to get there. And that's what's helped me. I did, if you watch the first episode of our podcast, the first episode with me and Olive, we talked about lack of role models. So I didn't have good all my role models freaking sucked when I was a kid. My mom and dad sucked. My mom and dad are in and out of my life, sporadic, different times, whatever. It's kind of hit or miss whether they're there or if they gave a shit. But even when they're there, they're neglectful. So I didn't really get much good role modeling or parenting. I got anti-role modeling. Don't do what they did. That's how, as a kid, I learned to do the things. Learn to do good things, right? I don't know how that idea came to me as a little kid. I was probably about 10 years old when I was like, I can't act like these people. This is insane. So it does take some effort. And then sometimes you got to find somebody that really, really has changed my life. A lot of times I tell people that and it's kind of I don't know why they kind of feel like it's voodoo. I'm telling them to get a bunch of different crystals and put them in their pocket and expect magic to happen to them or something. It's not that voodoo of a thing. But a lot of people kick back on the idea of finding a mentor, or I don't know, maybe it's the word mentor. You know what I mean? I don't know what another word can be, teacher. I don't know. But to have a mentor, to have a teacher, you have to kill your ego. Your ego has to get out of the way. I'm not sure what the ego is. I'm not a psychologist, but I know it fucks. Yeah, I can say that's my podcast. Yeah, it fucks up shit, man. Our self-righteous view of ourselves will get in the way of our self expressing itself and being true, which is kind of weird when you think about it. It's kind of like we're punching ourselves in the face as we go along. But to have those things, if you can do that, if you can get humble, that's probably a better word. If you can get humble and find someone and then ask them for help, it'll speed up everything. It makes everything better, especially if you don't have the guidance to do the things like the self-discipline or to see what's going to happen. A lot of times, if you've never done something, you're like, okay, I did this and I don't see any results yet. Even if it's been longer than 15 minutes, how long do you keep doing the same thing without seeing a result? That's the tricky question, right? So I don't know the answer to that because there's 5 million things you could do for 5 million different choices. But that's where leadership, mentorship, teachers, things like that, people who have done the thing that you have done or trying to do can walk you through that because they've already walked the map, man. They know the terrain. I guess a better example is they know the terrain. They know where the mountains are, the rivers, the lakes, the subdivision. They know all the stuff, man. They know where the bears live. They have a really good map to get you from point A to point B as fast as possible. And they know what to expect along the journey. And they can help get you through that weird spot of is this crap I'm doing working? Is this what I need to do? Right. So that's super important. You really have to be humble and have an ego death that you have to kind of have someone walk you through these things sometimes. And just keep that in mind that I think a lot of times our ego kind of gets in the way. I don't know. It's kind of crazy. What do you guys think? If you guys want everyone to hit us up, we're at never99.com. No numbers, all spelled out. So never99 spelled out.com. You can watch the videos. You can subscribe to our podcast. We're on all the podcasts apps. You can find us there. You can talk to us. You can find our Instagram. You can find our social media, all that kind of stuff if you want to chit chat with us. We're on YouTube. You can find all that stuff there. Let me know what you guys think, man. What is ego and how do you really think it gets in? I think it gets in the way. I think our own self-righteousness gets in the way of our own greatness as we walk through life. So, I've had some pretty humbling moments and experiences in my life that have kind of stripped that away over time, but it definitely didn't happen without really grabbing it and yanking it off. If you're watching the video, yanking it off, you know what I mean? It wasn't an easy thing, you know what I mean? So, but it is crazy. Yeah. Hit us up at never99.com. No numbers, right? If you ever want to chit chat with us, we're there. Subscribe to the podcast. Watch it on YouTube. Tell people if you think we're cool. Be our best friends. We want to be there. Oh, last time, what was it? On episode, we were talking about drug addiction. We're talking about caffeine, man. We love stuff. You got this right. A lot of people hit me up after the podcast and asked us about the drinks. If you're watching the video, I'm showing you a picture of them. These are these hustle drinks that we're talking about. They got 120 milligrams. I drink me and Olive. Well, Olive drinks some of them. I drink all of them. I drink all of the caffeine all the time. It's got like 120 milligrams of caffeine inside of it. I love caffeine. I don't have very many vices. Like I don't do very many things. I don't have very many vices. I've tried my best to kind of strip a lot of those out of my brain, kind of rip those negatives out. But one, man, I can't get out is caffeine. I freaking love it. I'm a caffeine fiend. Like I really, really enjoy it. It's got 120 milligrams of caffeine, but it's from green tea. So it's a little bit different. I don't know if you know about green tea. Green tea has, it starts with, I think it's theanine. Theanine? I can't ever say it right. I think, it's got, green tea has L-theanine. Don't quote me on it. It's theanine. You can just Google it. It's theanine or theanine. I don't know how to say it. But anyways, it's got that in it. So, when you drink coffee and you get all, if you drink enough of it, like you'll freak out. You get all jittery and stuff and you get crashy and your body gets all kind of funky sometimes. Green tea's a little bit different. So caffeine ramps you up. That other substance, L-theanine, is one of those things that kind of calms your body down. So it doesn't make your body feel so weird. So if you're looking for the body caffeine weirdness, it's not necessarily the best drink, but it does give you that too. But at the same time, it really wakes your brain up, which is my favorite thing because I have brain fog all the time. So I'm always looking for ways to get around it. So this drink called Hustle is fantastic. It's got, if I read this, it's got a couple flavors. There's 4 flavors. My 2 favorites are these, peach and the red one, which is usually berry. Yeah, berry. And they're not sponsoring the show. They should sponsor the show. Hustle. Boom. Sponsor the show. We love you. I drink like 3 to 6 of these a day. Something like that. I don't know. Somewhere inside of there, but they're not sponsoring me right now. They're not. But it's got a bunch of caffeine. But then I like this. It's got like carbonated water. It's got the green tea and it's got a bunch of fruit juices and stuff inside of it. There's not a bunch of weird words and chemicals that you're not going to understand. And one of the really dopest things about this, like when I got it, like the can looks kind of fun. It's got like a dude breakdancing on it. And it says stuff like, I don't know, it's got a bunch of funny sayings on it and stuff like that, like powered by positivity and stuff like that's right up my alley. They're marketing to me and it worked. I grabbed it off the shelf. But I read the ingredients of everything before I consume it. I'm that guy. But when I was reading it, it has ceremonial grade green tea in it. And I was like, ooh, I got to get me some ceremonial grade green tea. I know it's not true, but like in my mind, I think a like monk who has like these awesome spiritual powers prayed over my drink. And then I'm drinking it and I'm getting some kind of awesome healing from it. I know that's not true, but the ceremonial green tea is it's a green tea that was under the shade at a certain temperature for a certain amount of time. That's like really high level green tea. Anyway, it's fantastic and we love it. So if you're asking about it, if you go to the YouTube and watch the YouTube, bam, or you just it's Hustle. It's called Matcha Energy, something like that. So for all those folks that were asking, you know what I'm saying? Hold on a second. Let me put it near the mic. There we go. Let me go ahead and get one on. Let me get some of this. I've only had 2 today. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, the weird thing is the peach one. If you get it, it tastes like it's a peach. So it's peach and green tea with carbonated water, right? Basically. And for some reason, the peach one to me tastes like peach yogurt. And almost everyone I give these a lot of people, I'm like, hey, try this. But before you drink it, think of peach yogurt, like the kind you rip the lid off, and it's got like peaches at the bottom. And you got to stir it, like that kind of yogurt. So think about that when you drink it. It really tastes like peach yogurt. It's really trippy. Which, when you say it out loud, sounds nasty, and it's like that's not necessarily the flavor that you would like pick, but it's super good. It's pretty good for you, man. I'm for it. Like if you're pro caffeine like me, it's a good way to get some in without like better drinking like than all the chemicals and crap and stuff like that. But anyways, I'm rambling. Olive's not here today. We love her and wish her well, but she's not here to keep me on track. So who knows where we're going, man? But maybe basically, don't be a victim. Like whatever it's important to press your uniqueness onto the world as hard as you can. You have to get, you have to find your soul purpose, like the thing that you're so passionate about, because when you're trying to do the thing that you love, there's going to be roadblocks and bumps along the way. And your goal, your purpose, your desire has to be so big that it's easy to overcome the small, medium, and hard challenges on the way to get there. And if it's not, if your purpose, your passion, desire is like squashed or little, the very first block that comes, you'll just quit and move on to something else, right? You'll just kind of be jumping around. So you have to make your passion, your purpose huge. So whatever you want to do, multiply it times 100, if that makes sense. That's something that you have to do so that you can get there. One of my favorite, I had talked about Les Brown earlier. Another one of my favorite things that he says is like, most people fail in life, not because they don't hit the target. It's because they have the target too low and it's too easy. And that's why they fail in life. So you got to set the target high. So even if you're off by a little bit at the end, it's going to be a great success. And that's something that's stuck with me. And I try to do that in all the things that I do. And the reason I bring that up is, but if you're under the impression that you don't have a significant amount of impact and influence in the things that happen around you, then you'll never set the target high because you won't believe that it's possible. But you have to know that it is, right? You have to know that you have this greatness inside of you. That's super, super duper important. Speaking of that, let me drink some of this peach yogurt. Yeah, it's good. But yeah, I love you guys. Again, we're here every Monday, dropping new hotness for you. Never99.com, no numbers, spell it out. The reason I did that, I tried to buy never99.com. Don't go there. But it was like $3,000 or so when I tried to buy it, which is crazy. So like the Never 99 spelled out was like $1.99. Your boy went with $1.99. So over there, if you go to the website, you'll be able to find our videos. You'll find all the podcasts. You can subscribe on all your apps, all the stuff that you want to do. It's always there in case you forget what we are. But always remember, me and Olive love you. We're here for you. We'll be dropping some hotness in your ears every Monday. See you soon.
Never 99, the podcast that takes an untraditional view on health in the world and breaks it down in a way that makes sense. 99% is never enough. Always 100 with your hosts, Dr. O and Olive.